Welcome. Okay. Welcome aboard. So I skipped town. I played hooky during the Christmas holiday. I left on the 22nd and I got back on the 30th and I missed almost all of that horrible weather and you know, people's power being out and everything like that. But the long tail of it finally got me. My propane ran out and I haven't been able to get a delivery for 3 or 4 days. So thank God my house is burned back into a hillside because it's not and that it's not tremendously cold right now. Um, so I'm kind of fortunate not to be all bundled up tonight in front of you. Let's put the good thought on for tomorrow. But anyways, that all being an aside, uh, I'm so happy to be here with you today. Very, very happy. It's just wonderful to touch into the Dharma and to touch into really a new year of embracing the Dharma. And this is the second Monday since we've gotten into 2022. And I like to, I notice that there's certain times, and especially as the year ticks around, that I touch into my practice in a really, I think, sort of innocent and frank and sincere way and ask myself, you know, the piercing question, what the hell am I doing? Um, it's just, and actually, it's something that I guess I'm living most of the time. And the answer is at some level a foregone conclusion, but I feel that it helps me orient my practice. It's a wonderful opportunity to uh, really connect with what is it about the practice that's supporting me. Why do I find it helpful? Is it really helpful? Is there some way in which it's unhelpful? Is it getting in the way of anything? Just this opportunity. I think that one of the core tenets or aspects of practice is freshness. Is really yes, there's a familiarity that we breed in practice, and there's a sense of skill that develops, a sense of naturalness with the practice that develops over time. But I think it's important to really be. It's like, am I taking anything for granted? Am I stuck anywhere? Am I? What are the opportunities if I was going to emphasize anything in my practice? What would it be? So tonight is really all about, first of all, looking at what are the benefits that what motivates us to practice? What rewards do we get from doing our practice? And then having touched in with that, I think that the second question is really what's the possibility of our practice? I mean, maybe that gets into a sense of projection. But what is the possibility with our practice? What might, in our wildest dreams, we hope that will arise from our continued application of sincerity to this practice? And then the third thing is, having acknowledged that, then what can we do to sort of support a, what can we do to support holding our practice over the years so that we have the best possible, not just results, that's not the right word, but yes, there is something about results, but also the deepest support um, from our practice. So I hope that's clear. And what I'd like to start with is really kind of to open this up. This is a Dharma discussion tonight, so we're all giving the Dharma talk. And to start with, what is it that motivates you about your practice? What benefits do you gain by doing this practice? So I'm going to open it up for comments about that. Always takes a little while to get going. There we go. We've got a hand raised.
Yeah,
A fearless.
Uh,
Thank you.
the first thing that came to my mind is just remembering, not getting caught up in the outer world. So for me to keep returning to the stillness and the spaciousness, to remember what's more permanent and real.
Thank you. Is that, are you complete with having said that?
I am complete. There's more, but it's just, yeah.
Sure. Well, thanks for the clarity and brevity of that. Hi, Michelle. Good to see you.
Hi, Bruce.
And I just like the word remembering too, because the word, so mindfulness, the Pali term for mindfulness is sati, and sati means sa means to put, and ti means together, to put together. So when we remember, we're bringing the members together. So a lot of translations of sati have been remembering. And it's really that we're going along and we're sort of lost in our story for the most part. We're collapsed into identification. There's a me here with all of that out there. And we do this practice and we remember, oh, there's a different, there's another possibility, there's another orientation. And we can feel it's our duty, to take on the woes of the world or, whatever. And then there's this, so it's like, oh, wait a second, there's something else here. And there's something about, very much about remembering, and I think very much about what benefits do we derive from the practice. How does it help us? We're not figuring anything out. At some level, we're touching into mystery. And how could that help us? So thank you. Anyone else? I see there's a hand up. Virginia. Hello, hello, hello. Good to see you, lady.
Bruce, hi, welcome back.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm just coming out of 2 weeks of no power. Feels feels good to be. It just feels good to be here, and I think I'll start with what supports the practice is being in Sangha like this and listening to a Dharma talk and being in a community of people who are practitioners is extremely supportive, and it points me back. I think for me, the benefit of practice is just every morning starting my day deepening in awareness and as 0 point. Yeah, I don't leave home without it. I don't. It really keeps me grounded in what's important to me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then I think that looking at the questions, the possibility in it for me is becoming a better human being and moving through the world with the Brahma Viharas and being good medicine in the world. So it's a way of being of service as a possibility.
So then, you were saying about the 0 point, starting your day and don't leave home without it. At some level, at some level, you never do, but it's the recognizing of it. But what's the value of that for you? What does that bring to it, and how does that motivate you to practice?
It's hard to find words to it, but when I start at 0 point, then I can easily see when, I'm going into identification or reactivity or something that doesn't help the whole. And
Mm-hmm.
that motivates me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, and just to be clear for everybody, I think we're going to take on the one piece that we're looking at right now is kind of and so, I mean, thank you for keeping track of the different things that I brought up, but I'm going to be kind of sequential with some of the other things. And just to say, if we can look at right now, what motivates us, what brings us, what benefits do we get from practice? And then we're going to take as a separate thing, what are the possibilities of practice? Where might practice lead us? Um, and so to me, this thing of the 0 point and the fact that it's hard to talk about it. There's something about our practice that gets us in touch with a something that's not so codified, something that's not so storylined, something that's not so bound by the six objects, our five senses, and really our six senses, because the six senses being receiving and being aware of thoughts. And so it's just like, oh, we've got all these things, and there's this mishmash of our lives, and we've made all these story threads through it, and all of that, and that can be really confining. It's helpful for sure, and we need it, you know but it's kind of like, I think we're probably all familiar with the story of the scientists who were going along and they were really drilling down into this one specific, and they're just focusing on it and working hard with it, and they're and then all of a sudden a beaker breaks, or or some accident, or they have to take a pause, the power goes out, God knows what, and all of a sudden in that pause, in that letting go of the thread, there's some opening and an insight occurs. A possibility arises. And so it's sort of honoring and acknowledging both the fullness in the story, but also, making space for the possibility. Because I remember John one time saying, the space itself is intelligent. The pause itself is intelligent. We're creating the conditions for insight to emerge out of the primordial intelligence. So I just, was kind of caught by that little 0 point thing there. Are
Yeah,
you, yeah?
yeah, it's starting the day, resourcing that intelligence and having that inform my day. And that's the motivation, is having that be
Beautiful.
the thing that informs me.
I know for myself, I get a little stressed out, and it's like, oh, I've got a busy day, and I'm going to leap into my day, and I've got to get this taken care of, and that, and I've got to get it all set into its, and oftentimes I'll forget to take that pause, until it's been like, oh, wait a second, ah, and then it's such, vitamin Z. Good stuff. All right, thank you. There's another hand from an intrepid Sangha member up here. Is that Robert or whom? Hi.
I'm Faye.
Hi, Faye.
I'm Robert's daughter. I when I first was just
I'm sorry, Faye, I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. It's a little garbled.
What I most want this year is ease. Because
Can you hear me okay?
It's a little bit hard to hear you. Somehow it's coming in a garbled way, like we're missing half of the words, or at least I am. Are you missing stuff, Marcia? It needs to be maybe closer to or louder or something like that. Sorry, Faye.
Can you hear me now?
I can. I can.
I feel like I want to bring ease into my practice because
Mhm.
I've been really thinking about my identity as a person. And I think that at my core, it's just light, energy, and loving awareness. And that is all good. And everything that just kind of gets in the way and mumbles. When with this practice, I can sit with it and kind of sort through that and leave room for emptiness where it can just kind of flow naturally.
Mhm.
That isn't easy. I'm doing it wrong.
Right. And just a question for you, Faze, as you sit there and you're just present to what's happening. Do you sort it, or does it sort of sort itself?
I would say that in my practice, what I'm actively practicing is consciously sorting through it with um, kindness and patience, instead of
Hmm.
just letting it go on itself, because that's what just creates more and more.
Yeah. Lovely. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And one of the things is that sometimes something I feel for myself is that I'll sit there and things are confusing and they just it feels like there's a lot of obstacles in the path and so on and so forth, and then there'll just be a moment at which there's a sense of like, you know what, I'm actually just gonna see if this will self-organize, to see if this will kind of sort itself out, and to sit back and actually give myself permission to not do a darn thing. I think one of the greatest benefits I've had in approaching this practice is my essential laziness. I don't want to do more than I have to. So, if I don't have to run the show, that to me feels very liberating. But yet, on the by the same token, actually sitting down and being in quiet presence, and then just allowing things to come forward, and to have some conscious, that can be great too, to have some conscious engagement when we're allowing ourselves some stillness and the emptiness that you were talking about. And it's not an either or, it's a both and. There's some times where I mean, I think in the purest sense of our practice, we sit down and let things do themselves, but also there's times when it's like, no, there's if I'm planning something out, which, by the way, I'm going to Sedona later this month. And if anybody knows anything about Sedona, Marcia, can you put my email address into the chat? If anybody knows good restaurants or fun places to go in Sedona, I'm going to be there for like 10 days. So at the latter part of this month. So I'd love to know about that. So that's my self-serving moment. But anyways, thank you again, Faye, for that, the motivation for practice. And please, who's next? Who do we got here?
How about Philip?
Hey, Philip, good to see you.
You too again, Bruce. So for me, I find starting the day for me, it's really pretty simple. Well, all the chaotic swirl and energy that's out there in the rest of the world, meditating first thing in the morning gets me back into my heart and sets up the day to come from a place of loving kindness.
Hmm.
And to really stay in that place in spite of what's going on around me, locally and in the world. It's just a nourishing way to start the day.
Yeah, yeah. And so as you look at that nourishment, is that there's the nourishment of the stillness at the beginning of the day, and then there's the integration of loving kindness throughout the day. And what do you find are the benefits of having loving kindness be integrated into the rest of your day?
Well, it keeps me from being a nasty reactive grouch.
I've never heard of that before.
It keeps me from snapping at people, and it keeps me calmer when I'm driving on the road, and let the people that are in a hurry go past me, and just, the benefits are manifold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, and I think the benefits are manifold. I just so resonate with that at just this simple thing of holding an open presence and allowing, accepting presence, and then the loving kindness in a sense is already there. It's not something that you're having to manufacture. My favorite definition of the word love is inclusion. The activity of love is to include. Um, and so when we are sitting in, allowing interested, curious presence, I mean, the curiosity, the interest are actually already there too. um, but that inclusion, it expresses itself as loving kindness as we meet, moment by moment, person by person, situation by situation. And that's again, coming back to the laziness. That's the beauty of all this. It's already baked in. So for me, one of the things that I find very powerfully, powerfully motivating is that I do one thing and all of these manifold benefits come out from kind of mindfulness, you know? So thank you. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Um, And so now, anybody else have something burning in their hearts about the motivation or the benefits of practice for them?
Hi, Bruce.
Yeah.
It's Marie.
Hey, Marie.
I believe it's improved my sense of humor. Just
That's great.
a lightness,
Well, you got good timing.
more lightness. So
Mm-hmm.
much so that walking my dogs this evening, they started barking at something, and I went up to retrieve them. And my small, under 12-pound dogs had chased a 200-pound bear up the tree.
Oh my goddess.
But that was an example where I found it beautiful in that brief moment. The bear was actually quite beautiful, and I felt safe that it was up there. And I had to still retrieve my dogs. But I didn't, there wasn't a lot of reaction. I found it equally scary and exhilarating, and it was quite beautiful, as I'm running off with my dogs, looking back that it's still up in the tree.
Thank goodness. Thank goddess.
Thank goddess, yeah. But I appreciate the lightness and kind of the magic. I think there's times, when allowing and not controlling as much, it's quite amazing what shows up, like a black bear, I mean, I find it's, like there's, it's entertaining the more I can let go and not control and sit back, it's kind of like watching the world go by in front of me, and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the show.
Yeah. Yep. Well, and I know with my own practice, I used to go on retreats, and some state would arise or some aspect of practice would present itself, and I'd think to myself, "Ooh, I need to have that. I want to have that again." It's not a good sit if I don't get X, Y, or Z. And then when I finally would let go of that, then I would find that the next thing was like so much trippier and wilder than what I could have ever, projected or predicted, or looking forward to just being with, deepening what I've already been, in the neighborhood of. So there is this thing about, kind of lightening up and letting go. There's that old expression, I think, from the 60s that goes, let go and let God. So it's kind of let go and let awareness. Um, I think the other thing, I loved Gil Fronsdal, such a great teacher. Gil had a quote one time on retreat. He said, people when they engage in meditation can be so dour about the whole thing, and so like, oh, I bind unto myself today the practice at hand which I obey. And Gil said, meditation is far too important to take seriously. So I think that one of it, and also I think that an aspect of the lightening up is that, golly days, it takes so much courage to look inside in a very frank and sincere way and see just all the tenderness, the wounds, the mess, the this, the that, the other thing, and to open and include each one of those with this mindful attentiveness, um, that we begin to, the rest of life, we can hold a little bit more lightly because we've held so much that is tender, that's raw, and at the level of our marrow. And so then it's like, okay, well, I've been with all of those raw parts, the ruggedness of my humanity. And then I think it does breed this sense of, once you've been with that, then you can see so much more clearly how things are going on in other people in the world. And and you don't take it with this heaviness, that seriosity. So, anyways, I'm going to move on to the second question. The second question is about possibility. And yet, really, I think the possibility in what this practice is, a very Buddhist definition, or a Four Noble Truths definition would be that there is the possibility of the cessation of suffering. Doesn't say that there's the possibility of freedom, because the freedom's actually already there. It's the confusion of the suffering that clouds over our inherent freedom. And so, as we look into, in a sense, we don't want to get into projection of, well, I'm going to have, golden robes and a perfect monk's bowl and this, but I think it's okay for us to touch into the possibility of where our practice might take us. Of not because I want to become something different or new, or uh, I'm going to learn Spanish and Chinese and how to play the guitar and all of these different things. But just, what is this mystery of practice? Where might this or how might this, or what's the sense of where this practice might take me? Would anybody be willing to share about their sense of the possibility of practice for them?
Yeah, I'll chime in. Can you hear me, Bruce?
I sure can. Hey.
Hi, Bruce. Nice to see you again.
Oh, so good to see you.
I
I'm
did.
not seeing you. There it is. Hi, Cheryl.
Hello. I did an exercise this past year, which many people do, which was choosing a word for the year and just having that word kind of be present with me and bring it into mind. And what I chose was ease of being, which is one of those phrases from the practices that I've just always loved. There's something about that ease of being. It just, to me, it just says it all. I mean, it just means yes, exactly. That I'm not trying so hard and that I'm comfortable and I can just flow with it. So I kind of held that for the year, not as a goal like exactly, because it's like happiness. I don't think you can't really make it happen. But trying to keep it in my, sometimes I would actually like on purpose weave it into the meditation and then sometimes not. But that for me probably would be one of the primary possibilities that I would love. Yeah, that I would love. Yeah.
It would actually, I know there's in the meta phrases that I used to use, one of the phrases that I would offer myself would be, may I know peace of mind and the ease of well-being.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that always, I could feel that really.
It's just warming, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like that fits along so nicely with what Marie was just talking about, this sort of lightness of being. You know, there's a sense of, and that's not going to take away the fact that life can be rugged. I mean, bless you, John Travis. And we'll all probably have, some kind of illness. I know for me last year it was busting my leg, and um, and then it's a one-way ticket, and so. But can there be this sense of ease of being, this relaxation of being in the face of uncertainty, in the face of knowing that the things aren't always going to work out the way that we would prefer them to, how we would select. And yet, I'm aware that even though I busted my leg, there were some things that arose out of that I'm not sure if how they would have otherwise. I'm not saying that they couldn't have, but it's a. I would say that one of the things that has been a result of that, Cheryl, is for me a greater sense of an ease of being. For me, one of the gifts of it was because you all are, the Sangha was so generous and supportive of me during my healing time when I was in California, that there was something that calmed down inside of me that had been a little bit, kind of scanning the horizon for threats. And I don't know how I would have gotten there otherwise. It was so yes, this possibility of the ease of being, the ease of well-being, even in the face of whatever. So thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate it very much. Anybody else? The possibility of where practice might lead them. If it's okay, you can say no, but Cindy, I want to pick on you because Cindy, our dear Sangha member, has also cultivated a lot of the Tibetan tradition into her practice. And I'm always intrigued to hear what you have to say. And I'm intrigued in the moment to hear what you might say about the possibility of practice having given so much heart and intention into that Tibetan line.
Oh, well, thank you, Bruce. I guess when you said what's the greatest possibility, the first thing that came to mind was enlightenment. I mean, that's what we're here for. And if not, then liberation. That's a good one. And in the meantime, I really hope to benefit as many people as I can, whether they're the ants crawling on my kitchen floor or counter, or my neighbor, or things that we cannot see. Because right now, in COVID, we're more or less isolated a lot. And in my work, I was used to helping people on a regular basis. So it's a different tact for me at this point to be studying full time and doing a lot of meditation and seeing a purpose in that is different than hands-on. And being with people all day where I know that I can have this definite effect. But I also find that there's a certain freedom to focusing on the Dharma, where things sort of just pop into my life, where there's help needed, or I can benefit, or like Philip was saying, I'm just not as mean and nasty when things come up, because I can have a different attitude and respond differently. I'm really looking forward this year to doing a lot more to deal with my distractibility. I have a lot of distractibility, and I really find it beneficial, like the meditation that we did today, just feeling like I can, harness a little bit of concentration, and with that concentration, as that develops, there is that sense of ease of being that continues to, I guess you could say, cultivating that sense of ease through the use of concentration techniques and sitting in meditation.
Right on. And Cindy, just real quickly, because we're running out of time here, but would you be willing to say liberation for you? What do you have a sense of what liberation means for you, or?
Well, according to the Tibetan system, it'd be pretty far off for me. Liberation being liberated from the afflictions, anger, attachment, pride, doubt, jealousy, ignorance, being liberated in that sense.
And then just real quickly,
Mm-hmm.
it's a brief topic, it's a brief subject, but what's the difference between liberation and enlightenment?
Well, again, according to the Tibetan system, that would be the liberation would be once the afflictions are the gross afflictions are taken care of, and then you just have sort of that residue. And then there's a ways to go before you reach complete enlightenment, where all the karma is purified, even the seeds of the karma, the residue of the afflictions. So at one point it's the afflictions on a gross level, and then the afflictions on the subtle level.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you, Cindy. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Bruce.
It's a great way to end, is that, the possibility of our practice, if we're talking about ease of being, is that when there's no longer even any, when all of the even potential for affliction has cooled. They say the word nibbana or nirvana means to cool. You would say in ancient India, the rice is nirvana. When all of that stuff has cooled out in us, and that's this practice when we're just with things so intimately, so honestly, so sincerely. At some point, the mind just stops going in directions of hatred, of greed, and of there's me in here and that out there, delusion. So, what I want to leave you with, there's that third question, and that is how can we set our practice for this year? And because I'm out of time, I just want to say celebrate your practice, celebrate what motivates you when it comes to the surface, when you see it, when you experience it. You have absolute permission. It is responsible, it is appropriate to celebrate the freedom that you feel from your practice, because that little bit of freedom that you're feeling is a part of the overall freedom. It's like, I think a lot of people come to this practice and they're like, I'm not going to take an out breath until I'm completely liberated and totally free. And what we want to do is we want to know that, oh, that moment where I was really caught up, but then I was mindful and things relaxed. That's a moment, to me, that's the liberative nature that you already are, that's already there, expressing itself in your life. So you have permission to be liberated now, to acknowledge and celebrate the freedom that's already there, and you're on your path to deeper and deeper and deeper. You're on a skillful path to deeper allowing of that essential freedom to come to the surface. We all are. And thank God we've got us, we've got the Sangha, so we can support each other on this weird path. Marcia, please. And thank you all. By the way, all the Dana goes to John tonight. And generosity is probably one of the most, I